This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to Lockdown Coverage. Your man Louie Tee is covering the entire National Football League like a blanket. Week number 4 in the National Football League. Seattle Seahawks on the road taking on the New York Jets. And the big question was, Russell Wilson going to play, not going to play? To me, that was the deciding factor in the game. If he plays, they win. If he doesn't, they're in jeopardy. He played, and so I felt confident they'd be able to go on the road. And really, regardless of the situation, whether he was at quarterback or not, I thought the Jets would have a tough time against this vaunted Seattle Seahawks defense, and that they did on this afternoon. We'll talk about this game and this breakdown here in a second, but first and foremost, if you're new to this channel, welcome to the Louie Tee Network, and subscribe to the Louie Tee Network on YouTube for more great content in 2016 and beyond. I'm also on Twitter. The Twitter handle is @InTheLabRoom, so be sure to follow me on Twitter. If you happen to be watching this live feed while on Twitter, use the hashtag LouieTeeLive to comment on this breakdown of this game, and I'll be sure to answer at the end and we can converse. Also, I'm on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Be sure to go ahead and give me that thumbs up and like the page. And also, if you happen to be watching this while you're on the live stream, in the chat discussion box, go ahead and use the hashtag LouieTeeLive to leave a comment. Again, I will read it at the end of this breakdown. That being said, let's get to this breakdown. Likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe. And what I like to do is start with the road teams and the like and that for that team in the first half, and that being the Seattle Seahawks in this game. We'll start with their likes for the first half and then move on to the Jets and their likes for the first half, and so forth and so forth. So first half likes for the Seattle Seahawks in this game. Russell Wilson. Dangerous Russell Wilson. The guy continues to amaze me. Maybe it was the healing water that Russell Wilson drinks and promotes. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But this is a guy that is playing with a sprained MCL, had and probably still nursing a injured ankle, and he goes out and he balls. And I thought he actually played well against the Rams when he first injured it the week prior against the Dolphins, that being the ankle. I thought he came out and he played well enough for them to win against the Rams. He just didn't get enough help. Then he goes the next week and shreds the 49ers, injures it further, and now you're talking about not only an ankle, now you're talking about a knee as well in the MCL sprain, and the guy comes out and balls probably his best performance of the season, which is mind-boggling. He was on the money. There was feathery, soft touch. I'm talking drugstore cotton soft touch on these passes to Jimmy Graham, and he's threading the needle to Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin takes a shot, but he holds on to the ball. These throws are on the money. You can't throw them any better. What a game by Russell Wilson on a banged up knee. Couldn't tell. Guy goes out and throws for over 300 yards, and I thought he set the tempo in that first half of the game by his play, coming out, moving around. He moved around enough to keep the Jets on alert. He even kept the football on a read option play, even though he didn't gain any yards. It's just the threat of him escaping the pocket that needs to be present. And so I thought he went out and he performed at the highest of high levels despite being injured. That's why this guy is one of the best in the business right now. Russell Wilson, I thought, was outstanding in this football game. Tanner McEvoy, the star of the preseason, coming up big in this ball game. And this was one of those feathery, soft touch passes. Wide open, though. He didn't have to be extremely accurate on this play. Tanner McEvoy ran through that Jet secondary unmolested. No one covered him. It was a busted coverage. And Russell Wilson found him for a big touchdown, his first of his career. I like Tanner McEvoy a lot. And I love what he did throughout the preseason. I'm glad he made this team and got an opportunity, and he's making the most of it. This is a guy that played every position you could imagine when he was at college, including quarterback. And now he's getting an opportunity to play. And this guy is making plays, receiver, tight end, whatever you want to call him. He's making plays. Tanner McEvoy, I like him a lot. And I think he's going to be a guy that can contribute for this Seahawks football team. You go to the Jets and their first half likes. Opening drive. Thought they did a great job of mixing up the run and the pass. Great balance. After having the turnover fest that they had a week ago versus Kansas City, they needed to come out, establish the run, get something going, get some confidence in this football team, and more importantly, in this offense. I thought they did that on the opening drive, even though they did not get into the end zone. I thought that drive did allow them to build a little confidence that you would see a little bit of throughout the first half. And that opening drive, although only yielding a field goal, I thought was impactful for them in the first half. It showed them that they could move the ball on the Seattle Seahawks defense. They weren't invincible, and that they could do some things if they just took their time and remained balanced and did not try to put this game on the shoulders of one Ryan Fitzpatrick. B. Marsh. Thought B. Marsh was stellar in the first half. Did some good things against Richard Sherman, and Richard Sherman was basically matched up with him exclusively the entire game. Wherever he went, 25 followed, and so he knew what he was up against, and I thought he performed well. He was physical with Richard Sherman. On one play up the sideline, he's able to wrestle with him, hand fight with him, and then discard him, get up the field, and Fitzpatrick fitted in a tight space between Sherman and the safety up the sideline and allowed Brandon Marshall to get some yards after the catch. So I thought that was impactful. B. Marsh was impactful, also catching the touchdown right before the half to give the Jets their 10th point of the half and bring them that much closer in this ball game. So that back shoulder fade touchdown was a thing of beauty right before the half. We see Fitzpatrick complete that all the time to the injured Eric Decker on this football team. That's normally the route he runs, that back shoulder fade. This time he throws it to Marshall and completes it all the same. Thought B. Marsh was very, very impactful, a huge part of their success in the first half of this game. The end of the first half touchdown drive, I just referenced that, B. Marsh getting the touchdown. That was a huge drive. Again, they had done much of nothing since the first drive of the game when they got the field goal. They were pretty much stagnant the entire first half after that opening drive and that drive right before the halftime. And you see this all the time when you change up the tempo a little bit and you kind of go into a little bit of a hurry-up offense. It sparks the offense and it tires out the defense, and they're not able to really get into their set calls, and it just changes the tempo of the game and the rhythm. And so the Jets were able to take advantage of that and get a touchdown. And so that gave them a little momentum going into the halftime break. Let's get to the dislikes in this game in the first half and go back to the Seahawks. Allowing the touchdown right before the half, I thought they dominated this first half. And to give up that touchdown, I thought it just took all of the momentum that they had built in the first half and the things that they had done defensively, especially right away from them now. They were able to regain it, and that's the beautiful thing about having a dominant defense is that they just brush that kind of thing off. That could be demoralizing to a defense that isn't very good or is mediocre or average at best. That could sting them, and it could last and linger throughout halftime and into the second half. They cut that thing off right at the halftime break, came back out and dominated the rest of the football game, essentially. So despite allowing that touchdown, this defense came back, wiped that from the memory bank, and shut down the Jets' offensive attack until later in the football game when the game was essentially out of reach. First half dislikes for the Jets, red zone issues, and really it was the first drive. You got to get a touchdown there. This is a Seahawks defense that's extremely stingy. So if you move it down the field and you find yourself in a position to get in the end zone, you got to get in the end zone. You don't know how many more times you're going to be down there against this type of defense. So you get an opportunity, you need to find a way to get in, and they just simply could not get in. And this isn't just this week. This is a combination of the entire season. They've struggled in the red zone. That's why they lost week 1 against Cincinnati. They had a couple of bad turnovers last week versus Kansas City in their loss. And you could argue that that's part of the reason they didn't get it done in this game. The red zone issues continue for the Jets. You get down there, you got to punch it in. You kick field goals, you're going to lose football games. They kicked the field goal in this game. Brian Winters with the personal foul penalty. The Jets were in Seattle Seahawks territory at the time of this penalty. And you know, those 15-yarders, that's a huge chunk of field. And when you move back 15 yards, you take yourself, when you're on the fringe or you're actually right there on the fringe of the opposing team's territory, you get that personal foul penalty, you're now back in your territory and firmly back in your own territory. That penalty hurt, and not only did it hurt, pushed them out of Hawks territory, and they ultimately did not convert the first down afterwards. So those types of penalties, they sting if you are a Jets team that right now needs a lot of help on the offensive side of the football. You go to the second half and the likes for both of these teams in this ball game. Start with the Seahawks. Jimmy Graham, he's a man. He's back. Seahawks have been waiting for this, and he's finally back. He's healthy, and the thing that I was waiting on was not just only his health, but the connection between he and Russell Wilson, because I felt like if they could start to establish a rapport with one another where you just feel like, just throw it up. He's Jimmy Graham. Just throw it up. Throw it up. Watch him go up for the football. Throw it up. And that's what we're getting now. Now, he ran some great routes and made one hell of a one-handed stab on the sideline in the first half. But he just ran some really good routes, and Russell Wilson threw some outstanding footballs to him. There was one where he's running sort of a corner route across the field to the angle, to the sideline, and Russell Wilson just lays it out there with beautiful touch that allows him to run under it, catch it, and run away from a couple of defenders for some extra yardage. He was dynamic in this game, over 100 yards receiving. This is what we're looking for. And this is what the Seahawks had in mind when they went out and got him and spent the money on Jimmy Graham. I look for him if he can stay healthy. If Russell Wilson can stay healthy, I look for this combination to only get better. This was a good sign, though, seeing him come and make these types of plays against this Jets defense. Seattle's defense is the next like on the likes list in the second half. How could you not be in love with what they were able to accomplish in this game? They picked off Ryan Fitzpatrick 3 times in the second half, really stymied this Jets offense, and if not for a Fitzpatrick fumble that was recovered and run in for a touchdown in the latter stages of the game, they don't score a single point in the second half of this football game. Granted, there was a missed field goal in there, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they were able to shut this Jets football team down completely in the second half. And this defense of the Seattle Seahawks looks eerily similar to the defenses we've come accustomed to 2 years ago and before that, the year prior when they won the Super Bowl. Last year's defense just wasn't right. It was never right. They got better as the season went along, but they were never that dominant defense. This version of their defense reminds me more so of the defense we saw in 2013 and 2014 when this team was in the Super Bowl back-to-back seasons. They're dominating teams right now. And even in the loss that they've had this season, they only gave up 9 points. I mean, this team is dominating defensively, and you saw it again in this football game. The Sherm interception, Dick Sherman with the big interception on his back nonetheless, and they capitalized off of that interception. He had one on his back. They picked that one up. So he got another interception, and they were able to not only get that interception, get some great field position off of it, but turn around and put that into the end zone to help run away with this football game. It's one thing, and this is what the good teams do, it's one thing to get the turnover. It's a totally different issue to capitalize off of that turnover, and they capitalized off of the Sherm interception. Dick Sherman with a big play in this ball game. Earl Thomas gets an interception as well. Seahawks ended up getting 3 on the day. They got one more later on in the game at the very, very end to put this thing on ice. You go to the Jets in their second half likes. I only have one, and it's the Sharon Peak recovery of the Ryan Fitzpatrick fumble and the subsequent touchdown as he ran in with that football. That was it, man. They struggled offensively in the second half. That 7 points right there, those 7 points off of the fumble recovery was their only success of the second half offensively. And defensively, the Seahawks marched up and down the field in the second half. Russell Wilson with a 300-yard performance. I thought they ran the football effectively with Krista and Michael when they tried. I just thought they were too effective. Jimmy Graham had his way. There's really not much to like if you're the Jets in the second half of this ball game. Let's get to the dislikes for the second half. And for the Seahawks, none. I don't have any dislikes in the second half of this game. They dominated defensively. Offensively, they moved the football. They put up 27 points in this ball game. I don't have much to complain about. They took care of business in the second half of this game, put some distance between them and the Seahawks or the Jets, and allowed this game to not be close at the end. So don't have any dislikes. Thought they took care of business in the second half on the road against a tough defense. Russell Wilson and company got it done offensively, and the defense did what it is they do: dominate teams, suffocate them, and keep them from scoring a bunch of points. Jets second half dislikes. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws an interception to Sherman. I talked about that already. That was the first of 3 to come in this game. Then he throws an interception to Earl Thomas. And then lastly, the offense, for me, just struggled in the second half. For as good as they looked on the opening possession of the game, for as good as they looked on that possession right before halftime, you saw none of that in the second half. They couldn't sustain offense. They had some penalties that hindered them. And Ryan Fitzpatrick reverted to, Ryan Fitzpatrick. He reverted to Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? And like I said before, I mean, none of this shocks me. He comes off of a 6-interception game and has a 3-interception game. He's going to lead the league in interceptions this year. Like I said, the only guy that will probably give him a run for his money is Blake Bortles. Those two will duke it out for the most interceptions probably when the season is done. But I think Fitzpatrick is going to win it right out. And they're not going to make it to the postseason. You're not allowed to with Ryan Fitzpatrick as your quarterback. I say that every week. I'm going to continue to say that because he's Ryan Fitzpatrick. But nonetheless, Jets go down 27-17. Seahawks get the win, go to 3-1 on the season. And they look around that division now, and it's just them and the Rams. And the Rams already beat them, so they know what time it is. And we thought Arizona would be right there. They're struggling. Maybe this is their division to take because I don't see the Rams being able to continue to play the type of football that they're playing with Case Keenum. He's another one of these Ryan Fitzpatrick type quarterbacks. Now, he's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay, he's not a guy that will turn it over 3 and 4 times in a ball game, but he is Case Keenum. There is a limitation there as to what he can provide for your football team. So there is a glass ceiling there that I think the Seahawks don't have on their team and on their offense. And so I think when it's all said and done, this Seahawks team is going to win that NFC West because they're the better team between them and the Rams. Don't see the Rams continuing to play the type of football that they've started out this season playing, but we'll see. But one thing's for sure, if you're the Seahawks, you have to be excited about what you're doing, not only what you're doing, but the struggles of the Cardinals, because that was the one team in that division that you thought could wrestle this division away from them yet again and make this Seahawks team a wild card team. Now, looking around the landscape of the NFC West, don't see many teams being able to stop the Seahawks from getting what they want other than the Los Angeles Rams, but they got to keep winning on their end, and I just don't see them being able to do that. So, big win on the road. A lot of people thought the Jets were in a really good spot here, and they had an opportunity to bounce back after the Kansas City loss. And I didn't know what everybody else was talking about. I thought that this was a really good spot for the Seahawks, especially if Russell Wilson was able to suit up, and that he did. And not only did he suit up, he exceeded my expectations. He went out and balled. And like I said, I think this was his best performance of the season thus far. And the defense, the reason why I thought they were going to win this game was because the defense had a chance to dominate Ryan Fitzpatrick in that Jets offense. And that they did. They held Matt Forte to under 30 yards rushing on 14 carries. They forced 3 interceptions of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they held them to 10 points. Essentially, I don't even count that last fumble as a touchdown given up by this defense because everybody essentially stopped. They didn't think it was a fumble. They thought it was a forward pass. And so the whole entire Seahawks defense basically froze and allowed Sharon Peak to scoop it up and score. So, I mean, they were dominant in this game on both sides of the football. Got it done, and they win this football game 27-17. So that's going to do it for Jets and Seahawks. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on Lockdown Coverage. Come back and join your man Louie Tees. I got plenty more games to break down, including Detroit at Chicago. The Bears coming at you right after this breakdown. So I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Come back and join me as I break down Lions and Bears. Oh my. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I'll see you a little bit later on. Have a good one.